welcome back to Rushing the Field. I'm Nicole Auerbach, joined by Chris Sims. We're reunited.
What's up, Slugger?
Hey,
how are you?
Excited to be with you. We're here at the NFL Combine. A lot of crossover content. Very excited about
Definitely. Glad to have you here in the
Yes.
NFL circles,
Oh,
hanging out with the NFLers.
Loving it. We'll eventually figure out our little handshake
We'll
thing.
work on it.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
We got to come up with a good one.
That was rough on Saturdays in the fall. That was rough.
It was.
But I want to talk to you about this draft class. Now, you were with us on Saturdays on College Countdown, so you actually saw a lot more of these guys like in real time.
Definitely.
Does that make you more or less excited? Like, does it affect your view of the class as we sit here end of February?
I think, one, I feel maybe more comfortable than I usually do at this time of the year because, like, okay, I mean, you know my life's all NFL to where when most years in the college year, yeah, I sit down on a Saturday, but I only watch, like, maybe the one or two biggest games of the day.
Yeah.
The fact that I got to be with you guys, that made me, like, as soon as I got up in the morning, I was like, okay, what's going on? You know, let me watch every game, whatever else. And we all had favorites, and we had all the screens. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel more comfortable, I think, for one. And then, two, yeah, I do get, I think, more excited because you know this a little bit. TV can lie, right? Where you can look at TV and go, I think he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Ooh, I like that. And then you turn on the film and go, damn, on TV, I guess I was only seeing the good plays because these other 10 plays are not good, right? And you start to dissect that. Or it can go the other way, where you go, wait, I haven't heard this guy's name in 2 quarters. He must not be playing well. And then I turn on the film and go, oh, damn, well, he was being double-teamed every play, and he actually was holding his ground and doing a lot of good things. He was impacting things we didn't see that weren't on stats, right? And that's where I do get excited, and I think I have a little more excitement because I feel like I know some of these guys a little better this year.
Well, that's like we were talking about Shamar Stewart earlier, right? Like you look at the most like confusing and misleading stat line in the history of stat lines.
Definitely.
And he's going to be a really high draft pick because everyone's going to watch it, they're going to see it, they're going to connect it and be like, oh, it didn't matter, he wasn't finishing these sacks.
That's right. And I think, too, like you got to take into account, we're at a time of the year where I'm not up to school on a lot of these guys yet. A lot of the big-time coaches and stuff are not up to school either.
Well,
They're
the
just
Super Bowl
learning.
just finished. I
mean,
these seasons, in college season went so late. Like the Ohio State guys just started training.
Exactly.
For the draft.
So it's hard. It's hard. And you know, and most of the NFL, especially coaches, are on like free agency right now. They're worried about that because that's happening in another few weeks, right? So they're trying to get their ducks in a row that way, and they only have a base feel. But I mean, let's start there with Shamar Stevens.
Yeah,
because
we talked to the edge guys,
yes,
defensive line,
right,
linebackers
right,
on Wednesday. You talked to Shamar.
Yes. I first off, I think my first thing I would say is I know how good Abdul Carter is, right, as a player. But from what I've seen just a little bit, because I like to watch like 10, 15 plays to have a feel for these guys before I talk to them, what I would say is maybe going in this process, I thought Abdul Carter, definitely the best edge guy in the draft, right? That's all I've heard. That's what I thought.
Possible
whatever.
number 1 pick.
Right. But I
yeah.
watch these other guys here, and I go, this is going to be a little more of a conversation than I think people have given it credit for. And then it starts with Shamar Stevens, first of all, because of the things you said. Yeah. He's freak show.
Yep.
And I mean that in the most flattering way possible. To be that big, to move the way he does, and he affects so many more plays that you were saying, like to your point, that don't go on the stat sheet. I call it, and I swear in my podcast, and I'm going to bring my first swear to your podcast, up the play stat, all right? There's so many plays you watch where he busts through the line of scrimmage, he ruins the play, he doesn't make the tackle, he doesn't get the sack, but it's a minus 5-yard loss for the offense because he ruined it.
Yeah.
There's value in that. Disruption, right? That's what he is. And you see the pass rush ability. He's close. College football is a little different than the NFL. The NFL, the quarterbacks will hang in the pocket a little more. There's more downfield developing throws, right? College, as we know, is read option, inside zone, quarterback run, some more quick throws and stuff like that. So you can go through a game of a pass rusher in the NFL, in college football, an elite one, and go, he really only had about 5 legit plays where he could actually, the quarterback sit there where he could get the sack.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people lose sight of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're slippery, and you just bail out.
You bail out, or the quarterback runs too quick because he's not, he's not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen where they can, or Lamar would go, wait, I'm going to stay here and move in the pocket because my best thing is my ability to throw lasers down the field. I'm going to do that. In college football, you don't have those type of throwers sometimes, so they take off and run right away too, which will lead to less sack production or chances to get sacks. And those are the things you got to take into account as you watch the film a little bit.
So we were talking about this earlier in the week too, like these edge guys, there's going to be a lot of them taken in the first round. Yeah. Anyone else stand out to you? Interviews, what you've seen, heard?
Definitely. I mean, Abdul Carter, without saying, we know that. Shamar Stevens, blown way. Would be shocked if it just doesn't continue to go upwards. And I know I'm going to come out with my final rankings in a few weeks from now and all that stuff, but just from the little I saw, I can't imagine it doesn't go that way. The kid from Tennessee, James Pierce, he's impressive. First off, an impressive person. They all were impressive people. That's the first thing that I should have said about everybody. But James Pierce, very matter of fact, right? You could tell he's detailed in what he does. And then when I turned on the film to watch him and get a feel, okay, yeah, he's skinny, right? Usually when you see skinny guys, you go, are they going to be powerful enough? No questions. He's plenty powerful. Skinny guys, sometimes you go, is it just fast and straight ahead speed? Does he have any wiggle? Can he make the offensive line get off balance and then counter with something else? Wow, he can do that, right? So he was another guy that I looked at and went, this Abdul Carter, definitely the best pass rusher in the draft. Listen, he's awesome. I get it, but I think there's going to be more conversation. He would definitely be one guy I'd throw into the mix there.
So there's a bunch of these guys. Mike Green is someone.
He's the
Marshall.
Same, exactly.
I talked to Kyle Kennard.
Right.
He led the SEC in sacks. Like his production, huge increase this year at South Carolina. Does the fact that there are so many of these guys, do you think that'll actually affect the draft order?
I do. I know.
Because if you don't feel like you have to get Abdul Carter, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It almost it lessens the value or the desperation of that, right? I know we were talking behind the camera a few minutes ago, and I was like, I hear all the talk. Abdul Carter maybe number one, but then after watching these few guys, that was the first thought that came to my mind. We go, that might hurt Abdul Carter's chances to be the number one pick. Because now think about it. If you're the number one pick and you need a defensive end, but you're like, okay, Abdul Carter's one, but our 2, 3, and 4 are right on his heels and we like them, maybe we should trade down and we'll get one of them at pick 5 and get other picks.
Pick somebody else.
Or pick somebody else in general. Exactly, right.
Else.
So yeah, that's what I do think is going to be interesting. But I think you hit the names, at least to me, that make the most sense that are in that. Abdul Carter, Mike Green, James Pierce, Shamar Stewart.
Yep.
And I haven't, there's some I still haven't watched, but I look at those 4 right there and I go, they seem like they're in a little bit of a different class than the rest of the group.
They're the ones that you think are going to go in the first half of the first round.
That's
right?
what I would think.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
exactly
anyone
right.
who needs an edge guy, like those are the guys.
Yes, exactly.
That they're talking
right.
to. We also talked to some linebackers, some defensive linemen. Anyone else jump out?
Yeah, I mean, without question, our linebacker from Georgia. I'm bad with all my names right now.
Mikel.
But no, not Mikel. The other one, Jalen Walker. Thank you very much. Pete's saving me there. I got too many names going. Right now, I'm like, when I think of players, I go 11 on Georgia. That's how I think right now. Jalen Walker, I was extremely impressed with. One, I know the versatility of the player, and I got to see him, and he beat my damn Longhorns twice this year, and those are his best games, right? So he's one I'm intrigued by, but was maybe the most impressed with him in all the interviews. Just because personality, knowledge of the game, good perspective going forward, a complete package, and versatility in the field.
I feel like with what the Georgia defensive players have done in the NFL, and we just saw the Eagles win a Super Bowl with like Georgia's 2022 defense and a bunch of guys. Like, I feel great about all of them. Like, if I'm looking for a defensive player, I want one of Kirby Smart's guys.
I would. It's a similar thing we had with Nick Saban in Alabama for a long time, right? Because
you just know what you're getting.
You know what you're getting. You know they've been coached hard. You know they've been taught a lot of real technique that will be transferable to the NFL. They played in different schemes.
Yes.
And
they're pro schemes.
And they're pro schemes. And you know what coaches like in the NFL a lot too? They like a player that's got thick skin.
Yeah.
I can say something to him to correct him, and he's not going to be like, oh, why is he being so hard on me, right?
Kirby Smart will do
Kirby
that.
Smart, Nick Saban, they mother F guys all the time, and they have thick skin, and I think coaches really do like that.
I talked to Jay Higgins, and speaking of like the blueprint, he's the next great Iowa linebacker, right? So we were talking about Jack Campbell, what he was doing to prepare him for this draft. He was behind him. He was stuck. He didn't transfer. He decided to stay. And he's a guy that I really liked. He might have been my favorite interview.
Oh, you liked him a lot.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. And he was talking about very similarly the way we're talking about Georgia, about like just the pro process at a place where you have the same. You don't have you've constants. You don't have variables. You have the same head coach longer than anybody else in college football.
Right.
Defensive coordinator Phil Parker. Like, you just have all of these pieces that have done it now over and over and over again. And those guys are popping. They always pop in the NFL. And so you're just part of that lineage. So you know what it takes. And the proof is in the pudding when you're being recruited and developed.
All of it. Again, it goes into the same conversation you just said with Kirby Smart there. With Kirk Ferentz, those teams, they know that they've been coached tough. Yep. They've been coached like an NFL football player. And, there's no BS there as far as the player and what they are. And, Iowa always has a few of those guys. I'm excited to see that too. But yeah, like what we've seen with linebackers, out of that school and all that, they got great, they understand the whole picture. They understand what their defense is supposed to do and everybody and all the adjustments made if the offense moves and do all that. That's always going to be a positive. And Kirk Ferentz is a phenomenal coach that way. I was going to say something else and I forgot.
Another linebacker?
But the other linebacker, Jahad Campbell.
Yeah.
Right?
Really special.
Another one, extremely special. And the body jumped out at me, right? I'm big into that. I'm big into the look test, right? So not all 6'3", 250.
You're like in the handshake before the interview. You're like, all right, where are they
Definitely.
coming up?
Okay. As I'm walking up to him, I look at his legs and ass first. That's the first thing I check out.
You said that in a very weird way.
I know, but that's just the truth. Anybody that knows me on my podcast, that's where it starts, right?
Yes.
Because I again, my history in the NFL, growing up around my dad, whatever, more times than not, right? 9 out of 10 times, the really good players are special below the belt. They have legs and a center of gravity and power and explosiveness that makes them special, right? Think of Lawrence Taylor's legs or Reggie White or Barry Sanders or things like that, right? So that's what I do look at. But then the next thing is, that handshake, the length of the arms, the shoulder, neck area, right? Those are usually telltale signs of like, ooh, there's real power here.
This is the weirdest job interview process that could possibly exist.
Right.
Everyone's asking
and then they
about
ask
your
them to
weight.
get in the underwear and go take a picture.
Take a
Hey,
picture.
stand in
What's
front
your
of a
weight?
bunch of men.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing.
It is very strange.
Okay, so before we get off the defensive guys and the guys we talked to as we're recording here, anyone else that caught your eye?
No, I think we hit. I mean, Jack Sawyer was great as far as knowledge of game. You could tell all that, and I knew the leadership, no doubt about it. Right, charisma, all of that. They were all good. They really were. It was an impressive day altogether. But if I said the number one body that impressed me, and actually I think overall impressed me was Shamar Stewart.
Yeah.
Shamar Stewart's personality was special too. Got a little bit of the Miami cool vibe, right? All right, but you could tell he gets the game, gets the big picture. But yeah, I would say, he was a shocker. Jahad Campbell from Alabama, the way he looked, and then Mike Green and James Pierce. I was all like, oh, I've seen some things here that I like a lot.
So there is going to be, we're going to go through position by position the rest of the week. Want to get your thoughts on the quarterbacks because we're still a little ways away from seeing them throw, talk, all of the above. The narrative around this class is it's not the deepest.
Right.
It's not. We're not going to see the run on quarterbacks like we did in the first round last year. It's kind of two guys.
Yeah.
So let's start with them,
Right.
Cam Ward
Right.
and Shedeur Sanders. What are you looking for? What do you want to see from them this week?
Right. Like same thing with some of the other guys. Like I've watched a little, right, just so I can have a feel. So and I'll have my quarterback rankings coming out here in the next 10 days, 2 weeks. But one, it's certainly not the class of last year. We know that. It is to me the two guys, and they kind of stand alone, at least in this early part of the process. Both are raw. There's no doubt about that. Both Shedeur and Cam Ward are both raw. Cam Ward does make me say, wow, right? I will say that. Are there some, by-the-book plays where I want to go, wait, just throw it to that guy. He's open. You didn't need to move in the pocket, do all that? Sure, there is some of that. But there's also a lot of oh, my gosh, that's an incredible throw. Or, oh, my gosh, that's a pretty incredible decision right there. He kind of went from here to here and just slung it. And it was like he barely looked. So he does he's answered, even though I go, damn, sometimes he's greedy or a little reckless. I also have seen enough to go, wait, he processes things all right and gets to where he needs to get to, let alone he's got special arm talent. And he kind of pops to me right now.
And I feel like, too, especially in the Patrick Mahomes era, that improvisational skill set is going to be someone's going to want that. They're going to be like, this works for Patrick Mahomes. He keeps the play alive and he can make those unbelievable throws at weird angles.
Necessity in this NFL. Unless you have the best offensive line in football,
yes.
right? And you're just like, oh, okay, I'm always protected. But you're exact. I mean, you talk about the best quarterbacks in the game: Lamar, Mahomes, Josh Allen, right?
Yeah,
they can throw this ball sidearm through any little window, whatever, and they have the athleticism. And I think the other thing that people are going to be surprised about. And I think I even was, Cam Ward's a bigger human than I thought.
He is.
He is much thicker. It's square shoulders, it's long arms, right? It's bigger hands than you think. So this isn't like some small athletic quarterback. This is a guy, too, that can stand in the pocket and take a pounding, right? So that's where I'm excited for him there, too. I mean, he's got a little bit of everything. And, I do think he makes me say, wow, more than anybody else.
And I think, too, when you look at, like, his trajectory, he's increased the degree of difficulty in each of his stops, and he's gotten better, right? So even some of the decision-making, there's still some questions, right?
Sure.
But it's way better than it was at Washington State.
Definitely.
You've seen that growth and it's going in that type of trajectory. So where are you on Shedeur? It sounds like you use your QB2.
Yeah, for right now, I think so. Yeah, and that might change because again, like I said, I only watched a number of plays, almost like a little highlight tape. Right, and maybe I'll get into it here after the combine's over and start to go, oh, wait, Cam Ward has wow plays, but damn, there's a lot of like, wow, what the hell was that play too, right? So I don't know. And that's why I don't want to be held to it yet. But yes, Shedeur, I do like Shedeur. Shedeur is old school, right? It's not about improvisation, really, and making plays off schedule a whole lot. To me, when I look at him and he's at his best, it's standing in the pocket and making throws down the field with the pocket collapsing, and I go, damn, he put some power on that, and he didn't flinch with people about to hit him in the chest or whatever else.
Tough. Like,
he
we saw him take a lot of hits.
No doubt about that. Yeah. So I do like that aspect about him. And, of course, his arm, it's pretty damn elite, right? It's certainly one that you go, no, it stands above the rest. Him and Cam Ward in this class, I think, have that. But I do like Shedeur. I do.
Is Deion Sanders getting his own podium this week? Does he get?
Not yet. Well, that's going to be part of this conversation with Shedeur, too, right? Yeah. Is going to be the Deion Sanders factor. Deion Sanders, to me, I mean, a legend, is an idol of mine. But we got to be real in the fact that will that aspect maybe scare some teams? I
think it's a fair question.
I think it's a fair question.
We were talking about this yesterday. Like, if you draft Shedeur, first of all, you're drafting early, so you've had a lot of losses. If you lose like 3-4 games in a row, the media circus is there.
Definitely.
Because you know that Deion Sanders is going to get asked about it.
100%.
And then people are going to be like, well, maybe he should be the coach, right? Like, he should come coach in the NFL. Like, it just creates dynamics that you just don't have with Cam Ward. Cam Ward.
I think you're right about that. And you're starting to learn the NFL, and coaches in general, no matter where, they're usually conservative by nature. Yes. They don't want distractions or unforeseen circumstances.
I've been worried that some of the guys with big personalities were going to tone it down here because of that reason.
I know, and I think some of them do. They're trying to be like, I don't want to say anything that'll get me in trouble, right? And I like the ones that dance the fine line, right? Where I'm like, that was perfect. That was a little trouble, but you didn't get yourself too much in trouble. But yeah, I think your point about Deion and the fair question is real because there's just going to be certain teams that are going to go, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with he didn't play good, and now I got to hear Deion commenting about it, and now it becomes a national story. Yep. Maybe because Deion's not happy, or maybe Deion just happened to answer the question not quite the right way, and everybody runs with what he says, and that causes distractions, and we know that, teams don't like that.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the other quarterbacks that are in this draft. Obviously, the way people are talking about it is like it's those two drop off. Jackson Dart, I'm seeing as a QB3 in a lot of places. Right. But there's other quarterbacks that I think are really interesting, like Will Howard. I'm interested to see like his growth potential and what we saw him grow at Ohio State this season. Quinn Ewers, talking about the medical issues and then the oblique that he had this year. Kind of forgot he was also in this draft. Jalen Milroe.
Sure.
He's got the highs and the lows.
Yep. I like him from our college time together.
So what are you intrigued about with those guys? What do you want to see? Like, again, they're going to go through these drills.
Yeah.
Who's going to pop?
Right. Jackson Dart, to me, that's the factor he doesn't have as much as the other guys, right? He can play the position. He sees the field well. He makes good throws, and he can hit all the throws on the field. But, I want to see a little wow factor from him. That's, to me, what he misses compared to maybe Shedeur or Cam Ward, right? Whether it was on TV or just a little I watched on film, I certainly didn't say that a lot. I went, oh, that's good. Ooh, that's a nice play, right? But, with Shedeur and Cam Ward, a few times every game, I was like, whoa, what a throw. Holy crap. Damn,
they were must-see TV.
Exactly, there for a while.
You didn't know what was
going to happen, right? Yeah. Right, exactly right.
But you're right. Ole Miss, it was like, okay, there's a ton of pieces on this team. And Jackson Dart's good.
He could be surgical and do all that. I don't know if I buy he's a first-round talent, but I think as in this early stage, I kind of buy the QB3 thing. Yeah. I do. I certainly do. Quinn Ewers, you brought up. Quinn Ewers, to me, has more potential and talent than he showed at Texas. I think you heard me be annoyed sometimes during the year. We're going, stop throwing these change-up lob balls. Drive the ball. All I did was see you in social media throw lasers in high school, early college, and all of a sudden we got away from that. And those are the type of throws, in the NFL, the windows are tighter. You got to make it. So I hope he can come out here and let it loose a little bit, and open some eyes.
Be healthy, right?
Exactly.
Because he did have a lot of different injuries over the time at Texas. I think Milroe could have a big day, with the drills, right? He's got such a huge arm that I think that could be some of those wow moments. What are the things for the quarterback drills that will get people excited?
Right.
Because people have seen these guys a lot.
Yeah, and a lot of the times people are a little too statistical. They're like, well, he went 32 of 34. I like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not always into that. I know they're not going to be perfect. This is not a perfect environment. You're throwing a ball to a guy that you've never thrown a football to in your life,
and there's no defenders.
So sometimes I just want to see you let it go. I just want to see it let it go. I don't want to see, I just want to complete it so nobody on the NFL network says anything bad about me. To me, when I see some of that, sometimes I go, well, you're never going to throw the ball like that in an NFL game. That was a waste. I don't like that. Let it go. And if it misses target by just a little bit, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So that's what I want to see, really, from the main part. And with guys like Ewers, I want to see the power. Mm-hmm. With Milroe, I know he has the power. He would be maybe I just want to see the accuracy a little bit, and consistency.
And I think footwork, too, because people talk about that. Which, again, you can get some of that in these workouts.
But it's hard. They cheat it, too, because there's no rush. So you'll see three-step drop, and you go, he dropped 1 yard. That's not going to work.
It's perfect because you're just you can practice
there's nobody there, and you're thinking about it. Exactly, all of that. But, I think you want to see mechanics of Jalen Milroe. Like you said, it's been a little all over the place. Yeah. His good is really good, but his bad is pretty damn low. And that's where I think that'll scare evaluators. But some teams are going to like him as project potential going forward. I like that.
I also think he's going to interview really well.
He's going to kill the interviews. Yeah. I got to interview him at the Super Bowl, and I think I texted with you a little bit. I was so impressed with the human.
Yeah.
He's got his head on straight. He's willing to work. So I'm excited for him.
I think Will Howard's going to interview incredibly well as well. He's just such a mature, thoughtful guy. I really enjoyed. We covered him through the CFP run. I'm really curious about a guy like that. You have these experienced quarterbacks that transferred to try to show something or learn something or grow. I'm very interested to see how the NFL sees that, especially, in recent years where you take a guy that's maybe it's more of a risky pick, high risk, high reward, because they didn't have a ton of experience or they played at a different level, versus a guy that's been through the ringers, seen everything in college football. I'm interested.
There's value in that.
Yeah. So, I kind of think, wherever Will Howard goes, whatever round, that's a great pickup. And I think
he's nice and safe. He's got experience. He's played big game football.
Again, maybe he becomes a starter in the NFL, or maybe he's just a lifetime backup, and he's just super solid.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a great life to have.
It definitely is.
Our buddy Matt Castle.
And I did too for a while. I mean, teams need that. You want to have a backup that you can trust that won't be like, oh my gosh, this is a big game and I'm starting now, right? Will Howard's not going to have those issues.
He's my guy.
I hear you there. He showed athleticism, certainly. People are going to pick apart his throwing. He's got a chance to squash some of those rumors when he goes out there. He'd be one of the guys where I'd go, you can improve your stock by how you throw the football on Sunday, right? Is that when the quarterbacks are throwing?
I don't remember.
I know. I can't remember all the damn days.
I can't remember what day of the week.
Let me throw another guy that I think the NFL is going to like just from the little is Tyler Shuck.
Yeah.
I think
that buzz is already growing.
Well, because he's big, I think he's got a better arm than people realized, right? There's a little more physical ability that I think people gave him credit for during the year. He was with a coach who coaches quarterbacks. Yes. He's hard on them, right? But they're good quarterbacks.
They're smart.
So people are going to like that. He had a system. It wasn't just look at the sideline, tell me what to do, coach, right?
Yeah, and again, I think people also like guys that were kind of a little bit out of the radar because he transferred, he had injuries, he was this and that, kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly right.
And now the NFL folks have discovered him.
No doubt.
I think that's a good one.
I think that he gives me almost like Aiden O'Connell vibes a little bit, maybe a little bit better athlete. Yeah. But I remember Aiden O'Connell the year he came out, to me he was like the next guy of the main group of guys where I was like, hey, watch out for this guy. The way he throws and he's big
again,
and all that.
Time in a quarterback room with Jeff Brom is so valuable.
In college football, one of the concerns, and going back to your original Kirby Smart, Kirk Ferentz and all of that, is that these guys aren't being coached in college anymore. It's more like just let's let our athletes in space and let them do stuff.
Is some of that,
and that's where the NFL the game's not quite like that. And they like a guy that they know, hey, they've been coached and they know a lot of different things about football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this up, Chris, what are we going to be talking about on Monday? Like coming out of the combine, what are going to be the stories?
I think the first thing we're probably going to be talking about is some of these D linemen and the freak numbers they put up.
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to be the first thing. Like, damn, have we ever seen this many edge guys and D tackles put up these type of numbers?
Because they're so big, they're not supposed to move that way.
Exactly right. That's where I always in my mind, and producer Pete of my podcast would tell you, when I watch film, I usually write a number down to predict speed, right? Like, I think he'll run this or whatever. When I turned on Shamar Stewart, I first saw, wait, he's 280 pounds, but then I saw him run a few times, and I was like,
checking his weight.
Is he going to run a 4.4? Like, it looks like 4.4 speed to me, right? So if he does 4.4 at 280, we are all going to go freaking crazy, right? So I
agree.
I don't know. I get a feel that the D linemen are going to be the thing we're going to be talking about on Monday.
I think there's going to be, I think Ashton Genty's going to be a big winner of the draft
I'm with
week.
you there too, right.
I think he's going to, in front of a microphone, impress everyone. What we see him do is going to impress everyone.
Is our North Carolina running back working out? Is he working out? Do we know that?
I thought he is.
All right. I wasn't sure. I don't know. I don't have everybody in order, but Omari Hampton, I want to see that.
I didn't see the headliners of who's not working out. I didn't think he was on
I don't
this,
think I did either.
He's someone that could be a big riser too. Because,
that's what I mean.
That team, the team success wasn't there, but he's an incredible skill guy. Yeah.
He's real. And I don't have great knowledge of him other than TV and stuff and all that, but I've heard from enough people in the NFL
he seems like a riser,
that he's a legit first-round running back talent, which we know is rare. And he's the kind of guy, again, too, where we're talking about this, where if he puts up freaky numbers, all of a sudden people go, wait, he's a little bigger than Ashton Genty. Is he better than Ashton Genty, right?
That could happen. The answer is no. Right. But, yes, he could definitely be a big help. I also think people are going to fall in love with the tight ends if they're not already. If you haven't watched Tyler Warren, something
Tyler
like that.
Warren is right in, he's a little different than Brock Bowers, but it's Brock Bowersville in the fact that there's no doubt he'll be a top 15 pick.
Yes.
It's as slam dunk as ever. And he blocks better than Bowers did coming out.
Yeah,
I think.
and
he's a naturally bigger human being.
Yes.
Right. So I think he's he's one of the safest picks in the draft, I think, already. And I don't even got to watch film on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Right.
Well, Chris, I'm going to have you come back on Rushing the Field to do a quarterback breakdown once you
let me
officially go all the way deep on that.
Please.
But it's been a blast to get to hang out with you at the Combine.
Always.
So that's Chris Sims, and I appreciate it. Appreciate the insight.
Maybe that's what it should be. I think it should
just this
be,
and a little.
Yeah, right.
It's
we just we're kind of cool, but we're kind of awkward and white at the same time.
Definitely not.